Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. What do we want now? Freedom, 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 freedom. Louder, louder, freedom, freedom. What do we want now? Freedom, freedom, freedom. Oh, freedom, freedom, freedom.
Rarely does anyone in modern history remind us of the ideas of true freedom than Martin Luther King Jr. A Christian and Baptist minister, he drew inspiration from the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. His I Have a Dream speech embodies many ideals of the gift of freedom from oppressive entities, whether physical, mental, or emotional, caused by the reign of false freedom. Indeed, the slave masters were slaves to another master, sin. All of us, without the intervention of a higher power, are naturally slaves of sin. Yet we need not remain slaves. God stepped into history in the person of Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago to make us free indeed. Jesus Christ offers true freedom from the enslavement of sin and the woes of sin, and not freedom in enslavement to sin as championed by the world. In regards to the sins that easily beset us, we may echo in our lifetime Martin Luther King Jr.'s words, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I am free at last."
Through heat and dust, Ghandi and his followers entered the village Dharamshala for the night's rest.
Mahatma Gandhi stands as an enduring symbol of non-violent resistance, and his quest to liberate India from the grip of colonial oppression was a journey like no other. It's a captivating tale of self-imposed suffering as a form of protest, a testament to the power of one's unwavering resolve. Gandhi went through fasting, using his own hunger as a tool to awaken the nation's conscience. His iconic short march spanning 240 miles to the Arabian Sea showcased his unyielding dedication, each step telling the story of courage and defiance into the annals of history. All of this was for the singular purpose of achieving freedom, and indeed India ultimately gained its independence thanks to one man's unshakable determination. In light of this incredible legacy, one can't help but reflect how resolute are we in the pursuit of a higher freedom from self and sin.
Demonstrations against the South African government's strict apartheid policies flare into shocking violence. At Sharpsville, an industrial township, thousands gather outside a police station in protest against new laws requiring every African to carry a pass at all times.
In modern times, we may think of Nelson Mandela as a giant figure of anti-slavery and anti-oppression in South Africa. Throughout his life work, apartheid, a system of racial segregation and oppression based on skin color in South Africa, was abolished in the years 1991 to 1994. Despite the controversies around his faith, Mandela's experience was largely informed by his Christian beliefs and background. 27 years of imprisonment did not silence this man. In regards to the oppression of sin, we cannot throw in the towel. Gaining freedom is always a costly matter, and of course, it requires a protest against oppressive authorities. We cannot safely embrace the destructive power of sin in our lives and yet expect to be free.
'55 BC. Julius Caesar is leading 8 Roman legions, a total of 40,000 men, north through Gaul, a Roman province encompassing modern France, Belgium, and Switzerland.
Veni, vidi, vici is a Latin word meaning I came, I saw, I conquered, which was penned by Julius Caesar after one of the victories during a year-long civil war that broke out due to his decision to cross the Rubicon River. An ancient law prevented any general from crossing this stream into Italy with an army. To do so would be an act of treason against Rome. But Caesar was faced with a difficult decision to either obey the Roman Senate to give up his command and face trial, or march south and risk plunging the Republic into civil war. Well, he did march south in his pursuit of freedom, which led to the Civil War. He rose to power, was nicknamed Dictator for life to carry out reforms, but this king-like title was a worry for those who supported the Republic, and the Senate feared their power would be weakened. Cicero wrote, "Do you see the kind of man into whose hands the state has fallen?" On March 1544 BC, the Ides of March, several Senates stabbed Julius Caesar to death as he entered the Senate. Was this a just cause for freedom? Men seem to be at odds with one another for supremacy disguised as freedom. In reality, true freedom is supremacy against self, which is not recognized by those who seek worldly freedom.
Another group of people with best intentions and guided by faithful Bible study 173 years ago sought for freedom based on their understanding. They sought freedom from this world. They anticipated the return of Jesus Christ to bring an end to the world based on the ancient prophecy of Daniel 8:14 that gave the duration of time before the sanctuary would be cleansed. The general understanding of the time was that the earth was the sanctuary. It had so become tradition that it escaped many a Bible student the stated fact in Hebrews chapters 8 and 9 of the heavenly sanctuary. How often does our traditions becloud our judgment as well? William Miller, a former deist and USA Army veteran, studied the scriptures, particularly the prophecies of Daniel, and was convinced of the soon second coming of Jesus Christ to cleanse the earth. The major prophecy in question was the Daniel 8:14 prophecy, and he said unto me, "Unto 2,300 days then shall the sanctuary be cleansed." Miller would later find out there were a few others in different parts of the globe who had come to the same understanding, although Miller would become the central figure in the United States and his name was known increasingly worldwide. Jesus did not come on October 22nd, 1844, and it was not an easy experience because the group were seeking for freedom from the woes and disappointments and heartaches of this life. October 22nd, 1844 was a day of great disappointment, such that the events of that day is now known simply as the Great Disappointment. The Millerites were right about the date, but they misunderstood the event. Jesus had indeed, according to prophecy, moved from the holy place of the heavenly sanctuary to the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary. Here, he would complete the final work of atonement or cleansing before his return as king to bring everlasting freedom from sin and death. Like the Millerites, the disciples of Jesus Christ at his first advent, likewise wanted him to deliver them from the oppression of the Roman rule. God's ways are not man's ways, and God needed them to go through that moment of trial to help them ascertain what was in their hearts, just like it did with ancient Israel. He could have made the journey to freedom easy for them, and indeed he wanted it to be easy. But the people needed an experience that will try them to the core and show who they really were and whose they were. The master process of God's freedom may be hard and trying sometimes, but like the Millerites in 1844, we must understand that in God's sight, the journey to freedom is as important as the destination. When God makes us free, He does it completely, and the journey is part of that complete process.
Here I stand. I can do no other. God help me.